Bernie Sanders is taking a break from fighting the oligarchy to take a shot at the Democrat Party. Listen.
I felt like the Democratic Party completely removed the democratic process from its constituents. And I think they need to have some accountability of that.
No argument here.
Could we not also say if ostensibly there hasn't been a fair primary for the Democrats since 2008, are they not also a threat to democracy? Yes. We often hear.
Fair enough. That is, yeah, I'm not going to argue with that point.
Wow. Conservative Gen Z influencer Bo Loudon joins us now. Bo, Carly set up the question. It kind of asks itself, if Bernie Sanders thinks Democrats are a threat to democracy, then why doesn't he fight them and fight what they're doing instead of fighting the quote-unquote oligarchy?
You know, I think he's very comfortable with his position, you know, being able to tour the country, pocket a whole bunch of cash and fly in private jets. You know, that he is very comfortable with his position. He knows his party's corrupt. I think most do. But they either turn away from it like RFK and jump on our side, or they continue to, you know, prance around and see what else they can convince people of while they're on their little media trails.
Also wanted to ask you about this. President Trump yesterday, he signed the bipartisan Take It Down Act into law, which criminalizes posting non-consensual explicit images, whether they're real or AI generated. Here's the president on that yesterday. Watch this.
Today, it's my honor to officially sign the Take It Down Act into law. This will be the first ever federal law to combat the distribution of explicit, imaginary, posted without subjects' consent. We will not tolerate online sexual exploitation, and especially it's gone on at levels that nobody's ever seen before. It's getting worse and worse, and I think this is going to hopefully stop it.
Yeah, this could deeply impact your generation. So how do you feel about this development here?
Well, you know, I think Hunter Biden's very happy about this. No, jokes aside, I think it's an awesome act signed into place, because yeah, and that's a huge problem among my generation. People, you know, spreading all kinds of things across social media, and there's not enough action on it. You know, I'm in talks with a lot of people to you know, launch a whole new social media platform, and that's the only thing we wanted to have the government directly involved in, is to combat child pornography and the distribution of images across social media, because it's so popularized and so normalized, and there's not enough action. So I'm really very, very glad that President Trump is taking action on this, as I knew he would, because he's always been the most pro child safety president we've ever had, and he is the most anti, you know, human sex trafficking president we've ever had.
And I'm glad you mentioned the word safety, because kids, if they are so embarrassed, are taking their lives over this. And so the fact that that is happening in this country for something as insane as a picture on social media underscores the importance of this. It was great to see.
Effort too,
yeah, people get it. People get it. I don't get this. So we have you on to help us understand. Fortune magazine writes that your generation is increasingly becoming NEETs. That doesn't mean like they're cool or fun. It means not in employment, education, or training, NEET. Here's a quote from the article. Many young people today would rather protect their well-being than compete their way up the corporate ladder, only to not be able to afford the McMansion their parents bought for a fraction of the price. Okay, maybe I can understand wanting to have it a somewhat easier lifestyle. But the fact that there's no participation in anything, why, Bo? Why?
You know, I think this is the result of democratic leadership. You know, we have them ruling our country. We had to put up with Obama for 8 years. We had to put up with Biden for 4. You know, watching all our prices skyrocket, our economy being destroyed. Yeah, you know, it kicked Gen Z in the face. We're not having a whole lot of motivation to get out there. You know, I myself, I fought against that a little bit. I had the motivation knowing that President Trump's getting back in office and things are going to go my way again. So I bought my first house at 18, and I was able to graduate high school, and I'm on my path. But a lot of my peers can't say the same, because they're so unmotivated by, you know, the terrible presidencies that we've had to put up with. I think now that things have settled in, we have President Trump back in office, the economy is recovering, things like that, we'll get back on the right track. And, you know, this is a whole other God thing as well. You know, our generation is a generation without God. But the more we come back to that, you know, the Bible says in 2 Chronicles 7:14 that if my people humble themselves and pray, and turn from their wicked ways, that I will hear them from the heavens and I will heal their land. So I believe that's going to come, and I believe there's a lot of good things in the future for Gen Z, especially under a Trump presidency.
Well, that is a wonderful note to end things on. Bo Loudon, thank you so much for joining us that morning with that inspirational message as well. We appreciate it.
My pleasure.